Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Trey Ball. We appreciate you listening. Please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel to stay updated on all things outside the playbook. Apparently, Damian Lillard wants a trade out of Portland. Ben Simmons wants to stay. And from what I hear, he's not going to the Olympics to work on his jump shot. Okay, cool. One of my biggest issues with this whole Dame wants out of Portland, Ben working on his jump shot. I mean, there's a lot of players that went their whole careers without fixing their jump shot. Rondo, he's remained pretty effective throughout his career. Tony Allen was pretty effective, even though his jump shot wasn't the prettiest. Sean Marion has probably the ugliest jump shot in NBA history, and they were still able to contribute, compete, and play the game at a high level. Win championships at the highest of levels, contribute to their team on a night in and night out basis in the playoffs at the highest of levels. One thing that they have, and just using those three guys as an example because those are the names I threw out, one of those things that they have is a high motor, okay? High level of intensity and high pressure situations. That's something that I have not seen from Ben Simmons the 4 year he's been in the league. Look, he has 4 seasons under his belt, should be a 5th, but he had to sit out. But 3 of those 4 seasons he was an all-star. 3 of those 4 seasons they were in the playoffs. And one thing that I can't really wrap my head around is how do you boast of your talent level and how great of a player you are on the defensive side of the basketball and say that you need to be defensive player of the year, you're the best defender in the league by far, there's nobody that can do what you can do on that side of the ball, but you get lit up by a player that isn't even I mean, he's barely half your size in Trae Young, or you could say Bogdanovich, that went off a little bit on him, or Huerter went off a little bit on him. You boast your defensive prowess, your defensive capabilities, but you allow a player to get off on you at will anytime he wanted to, and that was his first time in the playoffs. You're supposed to be the vet in this situation. You're supposed to offer something in an area because you can't offer something on the offensive side of the ball. Where do you do that? Defense. Stop the ball up front. You stop the ball, from getting to the basket. You stop the ball pick and roll situations. You lock Trae Young down. Randy, you're not going to stop everybody in this league. It's the NBA for a reason. The highest level of basketball players, basketball skill, basketball IQ, you're at the highest level. But you got to at least show that, I can't contribute on the offensive side of the basketball with a jump shot when I'm shooting 34% from the free throw line and I'm shooting 0% from the three-point line. Granted, he shot 62 from the field, but he wasn't taking a lot of shots. He only averaged 12 for the playoffs, albeit 8 assists, 8 rebounds. But, Philly needed scoring or stops, and you weren't giving them either thing. So now you're dispensable in the eyes of the Philadelphia 76ers. And make no mistake, Daryl Morey is saying all the right things in the media to make sure that Ben Simmons knows he has his back, but he is most definitely taking calls around the league to see how he can bolster this roster if it comes at the expense of a Ben Simmons that doesn't have a developed jump shot, doesn't have the prowess on the offensive end to go get a bucket when his team needs one, and Joel Embiid can't give it to you, and Tobias Harris is doing all he can, but he can't give it to you as a third option. Seth Curry was actually the second option throughout the entire playoffs for the 76ers. Now, granted, look, Tobias Harris, he's probably the go-to secondary option on the offensive end for the 76ers. But listen, the way Seth was rolling, the way he was getting his shot off, the way he was scoring, facilitating, he was still playing at a high level throughout the entirety of the playoffs. I would consider him maybe the second option over Ben Simmons, or at least the third option, and Ben would be the 4th or 5th option on that team, which is, in my opinion, unacceptable because, like I said, he averages 8 assists, okay? He can orchestrate an offense. Now, why that orchestrating of an offense doesn't turn into him getting to the basket or getting post-ups when Joel Embiid is on the bench or, injured, why that doesn't translate into him going over 20 points every single opportunity he gets we were told this is the second coming of LeBron, so you have to answer to those expectations to some degree. You don't have to go out each and every night and be, LeBron James, but you do have to put on display the reason that this organization decided to take a chance on you, why they took you at number one, why they invested so much time, energy, money, and effort into you to be their secondary star to Joel Embiid, who's an MVP candidate. You have to prove yourself. And yes, you can rebound and pass the ball, but can you score? Because that's the other portion of the game that we need from you. You need to be a threat when you step on the floor, because if you're not a threat when you cross that half court line, you're jeopardizing the open shots that Seth has. You're jeopardizing the open shots that Danny Green, Joel, Tobias. You're putting all those guys at the mercy of the defense because nobody has to help off of you. I mean, everybody can help off of you. Nobody has to help off of the shooters. Nobody has to help off Joel Embiid when you drive the lane, because you can go up in midair still and dish it off to somebody and make a nonsensical play. You have to bring something to the table when it comes to the offensive game. If your shot isn't falling, that's fine. Get better at the free throw line. This next season he should be over 70% from the free throw line. And also, his prowess should be score 15 to 20 each and every night, and he should make it a point to attack the basket when people are stepping off of him. When Joel is on the bench and he's a sole offensive player that's responsible for getting everybody in their positions, facilitating, scoring, being dominant, he has to go down to the block if that's his game. Cool. Make it a point to attack the basket. The exact opposite of what we see from Damian Lillard. Dame is always in attack mode. He's always trying to put his team in the best position to win. He'll score when he needs to. Big points, put on the board. 50, 60, 40, 50, 60, it doesn't matter what they need on a given night. He's going to try to do his best to get his team there. We've seen him give 50 in the playoffs to the Denver Nuggets. He's willing to do whatever it takes. The problem is he hasn't had a lot of help. He hasn't missed a playoff series. He hasn't missed a playoffs period since his rookie season in 2012-2013 season. He's been in the playoffs every year. The last time, so let me put it like this. He has not had an all-star, a season-ending award winner, or all-NBA team player on his roster since LaMarcus Aldridge left. Now, LaMarcus Aldridge, he left, I want to say after the 2015 season, somewhere around there, 2014, 2015, he left. Dame has been on his own since then. CJ is a pretty good player. I think on a championship team, CJ would have to be the third best player because, how things shake out in the playoffs, how things work out in the playoffs. CJ and Dame, yes, they haven't gotten it done. They've been swept 3 times. They've gotten to a conference finals. People seem to forget that when they're talking about Dame and CJ and Portland Trailblazers. They forget that part conveniently, but yes, they have gotten to a conference finals. My issue with the whole Dame thing is that every single year, injuries happen, players get hurt. Not just, I sprained my ankle or rolled my ankle or, sore knee. No. Zach Collins broke his foot twice. Nurk tore his ACL or MCL or something like that. Maybe meniscus. CJ missed 20 plus games with a hamstring or a knee injury. All these large injuries that can linger even after you return to the lineup. This is what Dame has been dealing with, and he hasn't made any excuses. He hasn't really demanded a trade or anything of that nature. If I'm them, I would do everything in my power to make sure this guy gets some help, gets a free agent, someone of a Kawhi Leonard, an Anthony Davis caliber, a Paul George, somebody on that level that can get us over the hump and get us to the championship round. He got to the conference finals, but he got swept because he was going against Steph, Clay, KD, Draymond, Iggy, Livingston, Looney, Bogut. He that's what he was contending with. So obviously, yes, he did get swept. Maybe you get one game because KD wasn't there every single night, but even then, you have enough to get to the door. You need somebody that's going to help you kick it in, and I don't think Dame has had that. In fairness, to CJ, CJ has overachieved. You know, a guy that he came from Lehigh University, mid-major guy, somebody that's not necessarily supposed to be somewhat of a star in the league. He's just supposed to be a good player, possibly come off the bench, be a sixth man, and he turned himself into a phenomenal all-star level player. I'll say that because he hasn't been all-star yet, but he's at that level. I think he can be. I think he will be in the next couple of years, depending on how things shake out in the Western Conference. But I feel like he's just not on that level that's going to get Dame past Anthony Davis and LeBron, Kawhi and PG, or Steph and Clay. There's a lot of big name duos in the West that you got to contend with to get to that next level, and CJ just isn't that. So maybe you slide CJ to that third option spot to get Dame some help, or you trade CJ. Now, I don't suggest trading him for Ben Simmons because you're back at square one trying to get Dame help, because it's not going to come in form of Ben Simmons. That's what Joel Embiid's got to contend with right now. Who do you trade him for? I mean, there's Kevin Love you can bring in. I wouldn't say give up CJ in that situation. Maybe you wait for Love to be bought out. You add him to the mix. Blake Griffin's he's a free agent this summer. Signed a one-year deal with Brooklyn. Same thing with James Harden. I think his deal is up this summer. You try to land a big fish. You try to land a really big name and hope that it gets the job done. Once again, I would love to see Damian Lillard get another solidified superstar of the level of James, Kawhi, AD, somewhere along that lines, and see what the Western Conference has to say about that. Because, like I said, Dame time is real. CJ is a very talented player, but if you get another superstar MVP caliber player to go along with Dame versus trading Dame, because you're only going to help somebody else out, you're only going to give somebody else a chance at a championship, why not bet on yourself, especially with a new coach that can communicate with Dame, be on the same page with him, and CJ, you bring another guy into that fold, and let's not act like the possibility it's out of the realm of possibility to bring in Kawhi, because right now Kawhi isn't too happy with the Clippers, considering they possibly misdiagnosed his knee injury the same way the Spurs did, and Toronto ended up getting a one-year rental, and that resulted in a championship. So Billups is an assistant coach. Who knows what that relationship is like, but there is some familiarity there. There's an opportunity for a championship. So who knows? Maybe you take a chance and say, hey, Kawhi, why don't you come down here, hang out for a day, see how you like it. We'll have an interview with the coach, talk to the GM, president of basketball operations, see if you like the pitch. Take a chance, take a shot. But I don't want to see any talk about Dame wanting out of Portland, possible trade packages for Dame. Let that man be loyal to that organization. But what I've been seeing as of late is Dame has actually been holding them accountable. That's something you didn't always see. Dame is kind of the guy in the background, not really willing to mix it up, be challenging, be controversial to the organization. But I've seen him being more vocal as of late, talking about which coaches he prefer, what needs to happen for them to win. I like that versus the passive, I'm just, here to hoop. I want to be great on the basketball court, so I'll do my part and let the chips fall where they may. No. Go out and get yours like everybody else is, because your loyalty has gotten you nothing. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. Special thanks to Curtis Murphy and Murphy Elite Training for sponsoring this episode. If you want to stay up to date on merchandise or simply update your game, please click the link in the description to stay up to date on all things Murphy Elite Training. Until next time, you know the rules.